Hello and welcome to RAIN Podcast. I'm Dr. Maya Wilson, a clinical psychologist specializing in digital wellness. Today, we're diving into a topic that touches all of our lives, social media addiction and the power of digital detox. I'm joined by my colleague, Alex.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex Chin, a former tech executive who experienced social media addiction firsthand and now works as a digital wellness advocate. Thanks for having me today, Maya. I think this conversation is so important in our hyper-connected world.
It absolutely is, Alex. The statistics are staggering. Recent research shows that excessive social media use is strongly linked to increased rates of depression, anxiety, and psychological distress, especially among young adults. But before we dive deeper, I want to remind our listeners that if you're enjoying this conversation, please subscribe to RAIN Podcast for more thought-provoking content on mental health and personal growth.
You know, Maya, behind those statistics are real people with real struggles. I was one of them. 5 years ago, I was checking my phone over 200 times a day. I'd wake up and immediately reach for it, often spending an hour scrolling before even getting out of bed.
That resonates with so many people, Alex. Can you share more about how that affected your mental health and relationships?
It was devastating, really. I was constantly comparing my life to the highlight reels I saw online. My anxiety skyrocketed. I couldn't focus at work. I remember being at dinner with my partner, and she said something that hit me hard. "You're physically here, but you're mentally somewhere else." That was my wake-up call.
That phrase, physically here, mentally elsewhere, captures what researchers call phubbing, phone snubbing. Studies show it significantly damages relationship satisfaction and trust. What's particularly concerning is how social media platforms are intentionally designed to keep us hooked through what psychologists call variable reward systems.
Exactly. Every scroll offers the possibility of something rewarding, a like, a comment, a video that makes us laugh. It's like a slot machine for our brains. I felt genuinely powerless. The shame spiral was real. I'd promise myself just 5 minutes and then look up an hour later hating myself for wasting time, but unable to stop.
You're describing what neuroscientists have observed. Social media triggers dopamine release patterns similar to those seen in other behavioral addictions. The brain actually undergoes measurable changes. What's particularly concerning is how this affects our ability to concentrate on deeper work and meaningful connections.
I felt that deeply. I couldn't read a book anymore, my attention span had shrunk dramatically, and the constant comparison was destroying my self-esteem. Every vacation photo, every achievement post from others felt like evidence that I wasn't good enough.
That's social comparison theory in action. Research shows that upward social comparisons, comparing ourselves to those who seem better off, significantly increases depression and anxiety. A 2025 meta-analysis found that people who frequently engage in social comparison on platforms like Instagram reported 37% higher rates of depressive symptoms.
What was eye-opening for me was learning that these platforms are specifically engineered to exploit psychological vulnerabilities. The infinite scroll, the notifications, the like counts, they're all designed to maximize engagement at the expense of our mental health.
Absolutely. And there's growing evidence that this particularly impacts developing brains. But Alex, let's talk about your journey toward digital wellness. What was your turning point?
My rock bottom came when I missed an important family event because I fell into a social media rabbit hole for hours. I was supposed to drive to my nephew's birthday party, but I started scrolling and completely lost track of time. When I finally looked up, the party was ending. Hearing the disappointment in my sister's voice, I can still feel that shame.
That sounds incredibly painful. These moments of clarity can be so difficult, but also transformative.
It was. That night, I decided something had to change. I started with a complete 72-hour digital detox. No phone, no social media, nothing. Those first few hours were genuinely uncomfortable. I kept reaching for my phone out of habit, feeling phantom vibrations. I was irritable, restless.
What you're describing aligns with research on withdrawal symptoms from behavioral addictions. Many people experience anxiety, irritability, and even physical discomfort when suddenly disconnecting. How did things evolve after those initial difficult hours?
By the second day, something shifted. I took a walk without my phone and actually noticed the trees, the sky. I had a 2-hour conversation with my partner without any interruptions. I felt more present than I had in years. By day 3, my mind felt clearer, less cluttered. I slept better. It sounds dramatic, but I felt like I was reclaiming pieces of myself.
That's beautiful, Alex, and it aligns with recent research. A 2025 study found that participants who underwent a 2-week social media digital detox showed significant decreases in anxiety and depression symptoms, with improvements in sleep quality and self-reported life satisfaction.
The challenge, of course, is maintaining healthy habits once you reintegrate technology. Complete abstinence isn't realistic for most people in today's world. So after my initial detox, I developed what I call mindful tech boundaries.
I'd love to hear about those boundaries. Before you share, let me remind our listeners that you're tuned in to Rain Podcast. If you're finding value in this conversation about digital detox and reclaiming your mental well-being, please subscribe for more content like this. Now, Alex, tell us about these boundaries.
First, I created physical boundaries. No phones in the bedroom or at the dinner table. I bought an alarm clock so my phone could stay outside my room at night. Second, I set time boundaries using app timers. 30 minutes total daily for social media, broken into 3 10-minute sessions. Third, I redesigned my phone to reduce temptation. Grayscale mode, notifications off for everything except calls and messages from actual humans, and social media apps buried in folders on my second screen.
Those are excellent evidence-based strategies. Research shows that creating physical distance from our devices significantly reduces automatic checking behaviors, and the grayscale mode is particularly effective because colorful icons are specifically designed to grab our attention.
One of the most important things I did was to identify my personal triggers for unhealthy use. For me, boredom and anxiety were big ones, so I created alternate activities for those emotional states, keeping a novel nearby, having a simple breathing exercise ready, or texting a real friend instead of mindlessly scrolling.
That's brilliant. You're essentially replacing an unhealthy coping mechanism with healthier alternatives. Psychologists call this behavioral substitution, and it's much more effective than willpower alone. Did you notice changes in your relationships as you modified your digital habits?
Profound changes. My partner said it was like having me back after years of partial presence. Our conversations became deeper. I started really listening, not just waiting for my turn to speak while thinking about what was happening online. Friends commented that I seemed more engaged, more there. One friend actually said, "Your eyes look different, more focused."
That's incredibly moving. We often don't realize how much these devices diminish the quality of our presence until we experience the contrast. Research confirms that even having a phone visible during a conversation reduces empathy and connection between people.
One unexpected benefit was rediscovering old parts of myself. Before social media consumed so much of my time, I used to paint. During my digital detox, I picked up a brush for the first time in years. It was like reuniting with an old friend. Now I paint weekly, and it brings me so much more joy than any amount of likes or comments ever did.
That speaks to what psychologists call flow state, that deeply satisfying experience of being fully immersed in a challenging activity. Social media's constant interruptions make achieving flow nearly impossible. By creating space, you allowed yourself to reconnect with that experience.
Absolutely. I also noticed improvements in my cognitive abilities. My attention span lengthened. I could read for hours again. My memory improved. There's something profoundly restorative about giving your brain a break from the constant stimulation.
The research supports what you experienced. Studies show that heavy social media use is associated with cognitive overload and decreased performance on tasks requiring sustained attention. When we reduce that digital burden, our cognitive resources can recover.
I want to emphasize that my journey wasn't perfect. There were setbacks. During stressful periods, I'd sometimes fall back into old habits. The key was self-compassion, not beating myself up when I slipped, but gently course correcting.
That's such an important point, Alex.
perfectionism often leads to an all-or-nothing approach that sets people up for failure. The research on habit formation shows that consistency, not perfection, leads to lasting change. Could you share some practical first steps for listeners who might be feeling inspired but overwhelmed?
Start small. Try a 24-hour detox on a weekend. Delete one social media app that you find particularly problematic. Use grayscale mode on your phone for part of each day. Track your usage with screen time apps to increase awareness. Most importantly, be clear about your motivation. What do you hope to gain or reclaim by reducing your digital consumption?
Those are excellent suggestions. Another evidence-based approach is to create what psychologists call implementation intentions, specific if-then plans, like, if I feel the urge to check social media while working, then I'll take 3 deep breaths and drink a sip of water instead.
Yes, those concrete plans are so helpful. I'd also recommend finding an accountability partner, someone who shares your desire for healthier digital habits. My partner and I did device-free evenings together, which made it much easier to stick with.
Social support does indeed increase the success rate for any behavior change. Another approach that research supports is mindfulness training, which helps us observe our impulses without automatically acting on them.
All these strategies come together to help us regain control. But I think the deeper work is examining what we're really seeking from these platforms. For me, I was looking for connection, validation, and distraction from uncomfortable emotions. Once I recognized that, I could address those needs more directly and healthily.
That's profound, Alex. You're describing what psychologists call functional analysis, understanding the emotional function that a behavior serves. When we identify what need we're trying to meet, we can find healthier ways to address it. If we're lonely, a phone call to a friend might serve us better than scrolling through Instagram.
Exactly. And while I don't think social media is inherently evil, I believe we need to approach it intentionally rather than reactively. These tools can connect us, inform us, and inspire us, only if we're in control of how we use them rather than the other way around.
Well said. As we start to wrap up this conversation, I'd like to emphasize that digital wellness exists on a spectrum. The goal isn't necessarily eliminating technology, but rather developing a mindful, intentional relationship with it, one that enhances rather than diminishes your well-being.
That's the key. It's about becoming an active participant in your digital life rather than a passive consumer. For anyone listening who recognizes themselves in my story, please know that change is possible. The brain can rewire itself. New habits can form. You can reclaim your attention, your time, and your presence.
Thank you for that message of hope, Alex, and thank you for sharing your journey so openly with our listeners. Before we close, I want to remind everyone that if you found value in this conversation, please subscribe to RAIN Podcast. We explore topics like this every week, always with an emphasis on practical strategies for improving mental health and well-being.
And remember, even small changes can have profound effects. Maybe today is your day to take that first step towards digital wellness. Your future self will thank you.
Beautifully said. Thank you for joining us on RAIN Podcast. Until next time, be well, be present, and be kind to yourself on this journey.